Yes. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardston Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I guess before we really start off, you might see, those of you watching tonight or those who may watch it at some other point, we have a new face, probably not a new face to many of you actually, but new face as part of our meetings anyway, and that's Katie Young, who has recently joined the board. Katie, welcome aboard, and we look forward to having you part of the team here. We know you care, and can't wait.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are at the point we start open session. Ryan, is there anybody who has made any indication they want to speak?
No one at this time.
Okay, so let's move on to announcements.
Okay, so first for announcements tonight, wanted to thank, well, Katie, since she's here, and all the participants for the Hubbardston Town Fair. So following the rules set forth by the Board of Health and navigating the complexities of COVID-19, from what I hear, I was unable to attend this year. It was an excellent event, a nice reprieve from staying at home, but also safe and well attended by families and residents alike. And I don't know if, Katie, you want to add anything, but I did want to say thank you for all your efforts in pulling it off.
Yeah, it actually went really well until it rained, which always seems to, ruin lovely events like that. But for the most part, everyone, social distancing, and they kept their masks on when they were close to each other and everything else. And it went really well. And I was actually very impressed with, there was no arguing, there was no nothing. Because, that's always one of those fears you have in the back of your mind to do these large events. And there's a pandemic going on. But yeah, I think more towns could do things like that without a problem. If you just think about it for a little bit, and I think it would be good for people to be able to get outside and enjoy each other and do things. So I'm hoping more towns will do small events like that and get on the bandwagon of being outside.
One thing I noticed, Katie, I wasn't able to go either, but I did see all the social media stuff on it. The vendors they spent like extra time making their little areas look awesome. You could tell they just wanted to get out, right? I mean, didn't it feel like they just wanted to get out and set themselves up?
Well, for some of them, this is their only income, so you didn't realize this is how they make their money. And with no fairs or festivals or way to sell their products or set up anywhere, they're all screwed. They don't have any money to feed their, themselves or whatever with if this is their only source of income. So most of them were like jumping, at the bit to get out and sell stuff. And for the most part, the vendors said they had a really good day, and they did. They set up, they all had their masks, they had the hand sanitizer, they followed all the rules that the Board of Health put forth, so that, was agreed upon. So, I mean, it all went really well, and I'm hoping that Field Day will be able to proceed with the same kind of, function. I just, I hope the Board of Health will allow it to proceed, because they were there, they saw that it went well. I mean, the Board of Health was there, so hopefully.
All right, great. Okay, so on to the next one, Ryan.
And speaking of great events, we have the Dinghy Dash next. So that'll be August 29th at 10 a.m. at Brigham Pond with a rain date of August 30th. This one's probably even easier to understand how it can be done safely and provide a nice outlet for people to participate and come see the town of Hubbardston. So you'll hear more about this one, but we wanted to start advertising it.
Sounds good. Is that year 3, year 4?
3. This will be 3.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So we have a presentation. The building department online permitting I didn't actually see who's in here as far as participants. Is somebody here joining us who's going to contribute to this, Ryan, or is this going to be you?
Yep, it'll be the great Mallory Seaman from our building department, our land use assistant, is going to do a very brief walkthrough for you of the online permitting system that we've been talking about for a while. So Viewpoint Cloud is now our way of applying for building permits in town. It is the only way. So we're supporting this by having having a computer station set up in the Slade building, and also having Mallory there to assist anybody by phone, Zoom, in person, to file these online permits and make our operation just a little bit more efficient. So take it away, Mallory.
Awesome. All right, so I'm just gonna share my screen. All right, so the easiest way to log into our new online portal is going to be via the building department page direct. I put it in a couple of spots. It's up here on the left-hand corner, and then down at the bottom, there's another link to the Viewpoint Cloud. So once you log into our portal, it's a good thing about this program is that any contractors who utilize Viewpoint in other towns, they can use the same account or their same login information for all the towns that utilize Viewpoint. So most of the guys I'm finding are already in here and they're already pretty familiar with the program itself. So once you click in, it's going to give you the option of what kind of permit you're looking to fill out. So building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, gas, a general inspection if you just are looking to get rolling out there to take a look at a project that you're looking to get done. If you need to request a certificate of inspection or completion, and then if we have to issue any violations, we can do that here as well. So I'm just gonna click into building permit real quick. So it's a 13-step application online. And first screen is pretty much going to be your contact information. You log in, you put your name, address, phone number, whatever email address you used to register your account. It's going to be the way that the building commissioners, electrical, plumbing, gas inspectors, admins, Ryan, if he logs in, anyone who logs in, fire department, DPW, will be able to connect and chat with whoever is either filling the permit out, whether it be a homeowner, contractor, subcontractor, etc. So I don't know if it's going to make me fill in everything.
Put Ryan's cell phone in.
I'm going to delete this tomorrow morning first thing when I get in. Henderson. MA. The Chromebook buttons are so tiny. I feel like a dinosaur typing on this thing. So then once you get in, you're going to search for your address. So we'll just do it for Town Hall, 7 Main Street. Everything's going to pull open. The owner information should pull open because of the way our property cards pull for the town of Hubbardston, it's not going to pull. But if it was a homeowner that was pulling for their own permit or a contractor that had an established address, all this information would pull for us to take a look at. So it's pretty simple.
So Mallory, rather than walk through the whole thing.
All right, so what will happen then is you input all the information. You would give a brief description of your project, and then you your description will kick you into a bunch of different fields. So the different fields will include if you're doing a roof, the square footage of the roof, if you're doing an addition, it will trigger different things that the building department is gonna need, like a plot plan and all that good stuff. Once you get to the end, there is a portal for you to upload any documents that we may need, a workers' comp form, any plans, your plot plan, all that good stuff. And once the building application is submitted, it kicks right back to me at the building department. So the first place it goes to is me. I go ahead, take a look at the application, make sure everything that we need for a basic application is there. And then it heads over to Sandy at the treasurer collector's office to make sure that everyone's current on their taxes, that they're good to go. And once we get approval on that, then it goes back to the whoever applied for the permit to get payment for the permit. Once the permit is paid for, then it goes to any other departments that may need to approve depending on the type of permit that's being issued. So if it's an addition with additional bedrooms, Board of Health, Conservation, Fire Department, DPW, if a driveway is going in, all of us have the ability to talk within the system and leave comments for the applicant, homeowner, whoever it may be. Once Roland goes through his review, he decides if he's going to keep the permit or if it's going to go to Rick, the other inspector, and then we issue the permit pretty much. If there's problems, they'll contact the applicant themselves. But once that permit is, Roland hits submit, the applicant has pretty much full control of the request for inspections. They print their own permit cards. And all I get to see is the talking in between the inspectors and whoever applied. So if there was something that failed, now I'll have ability to see all that instead of waiting, playing the phone tag game.
So there's one side of this where we usually explain, which is great, where the homeowner or the builder or whoever, the applicant has a certain amount of time they have to spend in this and sort of figuring out how to navigate. Have all of those who will be reviewing it, have they, I guess, what's their competency in this at this point as far as?
Sure. So I have actually done 2 new builds through this program. So I kept it in test mode for about 3 weeks. Any permits that came in, I just re-entered in as the applicant myself. So everyone has had a chance to use it. Sandy has been great. She's actually put 2 permits. She stopped them because of back taxes. So we were able to bring those people current and get them moving through the permit system. Travis has been able to log in. Chief Hayes has been able to log in. We've been able to upload plans with the smoke detectors drawn in. He was able to review it right as his computer. He checked it off and it went right through. So no one has had any complaints yet. We did have a small bug with how the permit fees were calculating, but we got that worked right out.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we had 2 people submit their own permits today. I didn't get a single phone call on it. So it sounds like it's working on the outside too.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead,
Just
Ryan.
one of the benefits here, and Mal, you can stop sharing your screen. The one of the benefits here is you have to mute me too. One of the benefits here is that applicants can log in, see their own progress if they're savvy, and if not, they want to talk to us other folks, then they can call and make sure that we are tracking it and get the answers they need. So the number one question we get is where is my permit? What's holding it up? What's taking time? This is something that we can answer quicker without the back and forth. So it should make our processing a lot faster.
Okay, great. Mallory, you have anything else to add to this, or does anyone have any questions for her?
Thanks, Mallory.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night.
Okay, Ryan, we're good with that? You can nod.
Yes, so we're going to put together a video of walking through a whole application and post that up on the site as well and on YouTube so people can watch it if they don't want to call. And also we'll do a PowerPoint instruction for people with those things. So we're going to make sure that people have many different ways of learning how to use this system. But like she said, folks are pretty used to it, so we're not expecting too much of a learning curve for the public.
All right, that's great. Continually moving forward. That's what we want to do, right?
We're trying. We're looking at the other departments as well, making sure it makes sense, with the eventual goal of getting everything online so we can help residents help themselves.
Okay. All right, moving on. Item 4, new business. So we have our annual Board of Selectmen reorganization. So this is a requirement for all boards to discuss about reorganization. We currently have chair, vice chair, and clerk. So I guess here's where we're at.
I'd like to, if I could, assuming Dan is willing, I'd like to nominate him to continue as chairman. I would ask for unanimous consent from everybody.
That's muted, so I will say I second that. Please be chair.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, appreciate it, guys. Ryan, we need a vote.
Yeah, so the motion is nominating Dan Gallant to remain chairman of the Board of Selectmen. It has been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, well, we have to do a roll call, so we'd go Jeff,
Yes,
Katie,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Dan. All right, 3-1.
No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate it. No, thanks, guys. We'll carry on with the duties. Okay, so moving on to vice chair. I've been humming along pretty good here, and I feel as though I'd like to nominate Jeff to continue on as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Pat seconded. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dan, yes. Jeff?
you're asking me to vote
I
for
am.
myself?
Yeah, you gotta vote for yourself.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
All righty. So that's that, and we have the clerk as well. I nominate Pat to be clerk.
Second the nomination. Pat, don't leave the room.
Any discussion? Okay. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for accepting, guys. All right. It's done for another year. That was easy. Okay. So now we have 4B, which is the COVID-19 updates, CARES Act, and reopening town offices. So where are we at, Ryan?
Great. So we have, if people are tracking, which I'm sure they are, Massachusetts numbers, they look good, although there's still a vigilance that's needed and an increasing R rate. The number of cases and the most important one, the death rate is declining. And although it's still present, that's good for the reopening that we are trying to do here in Massachusetts. So not the same around the country, so we are certainly monitoring that. In terms of where we are at with COVID, the biggest unknown right now is schools. And I have been in contact with the superintendent and and met with the operations director last week. They are putting forth their plans. There's a lot of guidance from DESE, and the focus right now is to have in-person school. So all schools are required to put in 3 different types of plans. One would be in person, one would be a hybrid, and the other would be pure remote, with an emphasis right now on bringing students back to school for in-person if possible. The reason why that's the biggest unknown is it's the biggest impact on the budget, and it's kind of stalling everything else. So without that answer, there's just a lot of unknowns in terms of revenue. The second piece would be the state budget, and I do think that's heavily contingent on the school decision. So I think the two are linked, and we are just in a holding pattern until that happens. As soon as those 2 shoes drop, Assuming there's no change, we would immediately know where we're at financially and then start working with the school committee and the schools to finalize our budget. Although we've passed a balanced budget, we do expect COVID to have an impact on at least revenue, if not expense side with the schools.
Have there been any dates thrown out there yet on when the sort of next expected shoe to drop may come?
So last week we were expecting a big announcement and they just reiterated their commitment to in-person school. So I don't have a better date than that. I do know that the plans need to be finalized and submitted by the end of July. So I'm hoping for an early August answer.
Okay. Anything else you want to add that we need updated on?
Yes, so town employees are mostly back in the office now, accepting a few caveats for people with care issues. Every department has the ability to have appointments with folks as long as they're coming in and following our social distancing guidelines. We're just asking that you only come to town offices if you need to. For regular questions that can be answered over the phone or email, we would prefer to do it remotely. But if you do need to come to town hall, you need assistance or need to speak with our employees, call and make an appointment and we will meet with you in the safest manner possible. Still providing full assistance via Zoom or remote for those who don't want to come to town offices but still want to speak to us. The switch to public hours will start in August, assuming no change in status. So every department will be offering open hours for people to drop in. And then we expect to slowly ramp those hours up as hopefully the numbers continue to stay good and we can move past COVID-19. If there's any change, we reserve the right to roll some of these back in order to protect our residents and our staff. The number one question we're getting from our town officials and residents is when can we meet in public again? So we have asked for clarity from town council on this and from the state. And right now they're still saying that remote meetings are necessary. So I've met with boards that want to meet in person. The reason why we can't meet in person is because it causes an open meeting law issue, whereas people may not feel comfortable, or as soon as there's more than 10 people in the room, the meeting has to be shut down. So right now we are still following the guidance that all meetings have to be remote. And we will, I promise, send out guidance as soon as we get some indication that there's change there. There are a couple towns that have had meetings here and there, but overall, most people are still meeting remotely and via Zoom, to include town meetings. So this is what we're doing for the near future. And then the last update is the CARES Act. We received our first reimbursement for FY20. So all the costs extra that COVID caused our budget for FY20 have been reimbursed, except for the stuff that's FEMA eligible, which we expect to get in Q1 after we finish the application with Dennis O'Donnell. And then for anything that we need for FY21, we've put together a plan, and I'll give you a full presentation on that at our next meeting on how we're going to cover the ability to provide social distancing, more remote options, more computer options, more software, and then cover some of the school assessment that we think is coming, because we do have clarity from Department of Revenue that we can use CARES Act money to cover school-related costs. So I met with the superintendent and operations manager, as I said, and we're starting to develop a plan for how we can make that happen in terms of the mechanics so that we can offset our assessment with CARES Act money, because most of the assessment increases we're expecting are related to COVID.
Okay, cool. And just a quick, I don't think we saw your TA report, right? You didn't post that for us to look?
It's in there now. Yep.
It's in there now. Okay, well, all right. Earlier today, I didn't see it, but just a quick debrief on, we haven't met since town meeting, right? So,
yes.
So, I mean, it went great. I think just to sort of say it succinctly, 132 people. Everyone adhered to all the things they were supposed to adhere to. It went really, really smooth. I work for a number of different municipalities around the state. I've heard, varying levels, nothing too crazy, but I did speak to one municipality out in Eastern Mass that, didn't sound like they had too many more agenda items or warrant articles than us, but it was all online and took 2 nights, 4 hours each because it was so complicated. Yeah, brutal. So, I think, credit to you for having it all set up and everybody for showing up and contributing like they did, because I think it went great.
Not to mention we got perfect weather for it.
Yeah. Wasn't too hot. It was pretty hot though.
It was. But anyway, so, okay, that was just a quick debrief. All
And
right.
so I'm
go ahead.
sorry, just to update, because you brought it up, the school budget is going back to the school committee. I don't think this was a surprise to anybody, given that they didn't change it from the pre-COVID era. So 2 of the towns, Berry and Hardwick, recommended different numbers than the school committee, which means for all intents and purposes, the school budget was rejected as given to us. OCAM did pass the assessment that was issued in early April, and New Braintree hasn't voted on it yet. So this will go back to the schools. One thing they are asking for, and I think it makes sense, is they're supposed to send it back to us within 30 days, but I don't think it makes sense for them to send it back to us given that we don't know what the costs are going to be or what the state budget's going to be. So they've asked for an extension on that, and I've offered my support for it. I'm sure the board would support it as well, because why do this a couple times when we can just do it once? So normally they'd get it back to us in 30 days, and then we'd have 60 days to respond with the town meeting. We're hoping that gets pushed a little bit towards the fall. Again, I'm projecting a September special town meeting to address some of this stuff.
Okay. Sounds good. So moving on, 4C, which is the fiscal year 20 intra-departmental budget transfer, joint with Finance Committee. Is that happening or is that not happening?
So they already met earlier, and they don't need to meet jointly unless they wanted to. So it's not that they don't like you. They just wanted to end their meeting earlier.
Yeah. Good.
Well, maybe they don't like you. I don't know. I didn't ask.
I mean, good riddance. Fine.
I just want to show you something, and then I'll talk about the one transfer that we have. So my goal is always to be extremely transparent with the budget. Just so for those who don't know, we post our budget versus actual and our expenses by expense on the town accountant's website under the budget tracking item, so that folks can see where their tax dollars are going and can follow along like we do on how we're spending our money. So so what happens at the end of the year is the town accountant still has to reconcile, and we have to make small tweaks to the budget in order to make sure we're in compliance with all laws and ready for closing the year. And closing the year allows us to know where we are financially, and then where we are with some big items like free cash and other things. So the idea behind our budget is we want to project somewhat conservatively on revenue and somewhat conservatively on expenses in order to have the type of free cash we need to right now fund our budget and fund our capital plan and other needs. So this year is a little different because you also are a little bit conservative with your revenue in case something like this happens, where COVID-19 takes over our revenue projections and basically stalls all activity, and for us, the ability to collect revenue. So this is the expense side, and these negatives here that are circled, and I can get into detail in any of this, I'm just trying to go at a higher level. What happened was when I budgeted for FY20 as the Human Resources Director, I budgeted out the numbers because our budget was so tight last year at 52 weeks. And the actual payroll this year was 52.2 because there's 3 extra days in FY20. So every account was off a little bit, which is these circled numbers, because everybody got 3 days of extra pay, which happens every year. And we fixed that for FY20. So all the projections for salary and wages in FY20 are built off this 52.2. So those need to be covered, but because of the Municipal Modernization Act, we are able to cover those with internal transfers, which don't require your vote. So basically, to make it really simple, if you authorize the department to spend $1,000 on all their lines and they spend 900, they can move that 100 to other lines to offset expenses. So we're doing that for all of them, except for the Selectmen's budget, and that's intentional. So last meeting, you voted to spend or encumber $15,000 for the water study for the town center resilience. We talked about the outcomes of that being a redundancy for our town well, to understand the effects of climate change on the residents' wells in the town center, and then also the byproduct of understanding if maybe we can make an economic development investment by providing extra water if wells would support it. So we need 15,000 for that. The excess that I said from mostly town council is 11,000. So in order to cover that, and then the salaries for myself and for Bobby, which is town administrator and selectmen, which are a joint budget, we're asking for way more than we need, but a $7,000 transfer. And we ask for more than we need so that we don't have to ask again. And any money that we don't spend is then returned to the general fund and turns into what we call free cash. So the transfer is a 7,000 request from unemployment. Unemployment is one of those things where you need to budget for it in case, because if you need it, you need it. This year we didn't use it at all. It's the second year we haven't used unemployment. So there's 10,000 in there currently untouched. We're asking to transfer 7,000 of that to Selectmen Services to cover the water study and the I'll call it the salary mistakes for myself and for Bobby. So the Finance Committee voted to support this transfer, and besides the ambulance to fire transfer, this is the only one we need this year, which is pretty good since we did about 12 last year.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for the detailed explanation. So I guess somebody wants to make a motion to accept this transfer.
I'll make a motion to, okay, go ahead, Pat.
No, I'll make the
Go ahead.
motion to approve the transfer as presented.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Roll call, Dan. Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, so Ryan, we've hit 7 o'clock here. I don't think Gael is on the call, right? You don't see him on there? For this is another item. You guys don't know what that is yet, but you don't see him, correct?
No.
Okay, so we've got Robert Williams there. I think that was yes. Who's going to be able to speak on behalf of National Grid? You okay if we jump to that now? Because that was intended for 7 o'clock.
Sounds good.
All right, so you want to set this up for us? So we've got 3 poll petitions tonight.
Yes, so I will show them on the screen here. So these poll petitions were properly advertised and are for your consideration tonight. So National Grid is asking to install poles on Grimes Road and 1,582 feet west of the center line of Cruise Road and on Mount Jefferson Road. So all 3 were advertised, and folks are, if anyone's here to speak to them, and the board can ask any questions of Mr. Williams, who's here for National Grid, as is normally done in these poll petitions.
Is he been unmuted?
Yeah, I'm here.
You are there. Okay, I have a simple question. We've done many of these. Is there anything, without us getting in too much into the weeds here, is there anything out of the ordinary with they don't look it to us, or to me, I mean, anything out of the ordinary with these petitions from what the standard is from National Grid?
No, I wouldn't say so. Just, yeah, both of them, 2 of them are for a new pole for a service drop, and one of them is just for a pole box that we like to have on long spans of underground cable,
Okay, so pretty
primary
standard.
cable. So
So the JO, that means jointly owned pole, and that's with Verizon?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so very standard there too. Okay, I mean, I don't have any additional questions. If anyone else does, please chime in, or Mr. Williams, if you have anything you want to add, please do.
I think I'm good, but I can answer any questions.
Okay, doesn't look like it. So, okay, Ryan, let's go through the motions here.
Okay, so we can start with Grimes Road. Let me put that on the screen for you.
So
this is
as per your direction earlier today, you can do one at a time here and vote on them individually.
yes.
So would you mind, as I read them, sort of scrolling down as we move along?
Sure. So I don't see anybody in the crowd that wants to speak to this, but if they do, please type into the chat. Otherwise, the board can consider this. So this is what needs to be read.
Sounds good. So I'm going to begin. Grimes Road, National Grid to install one JO jointly owned pole on Grimes Road, beginning at a point approximately 986.58 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Old Westminster Road, and continuing approximately
Oops, sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
3 feet in the northwest direction, installing pole 4-2 to service customer at 11 Grimes Road. Okay, so
Motion to accept that full petition for Grimes Road.
I'll second.
okay, any discussion? Nope, we'll vote. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good, unanimous. Move on to the next one.
Okay, the next one we will do is Cruise Road. Okay, so the board has opened this hearing, so I'm just looking briefly to see if there's anyone to speak on it. I don't see anyone in the virtual attendees. So if there's no questions, the board can do a motion. And just
Second poll petition is Williamsville Road, National Grid to install, beginning at a point approximately 1,582 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Cruise Road, continuing approximately 17 feet in the south direction. Install pole box behind pole 120 to intercept customer-owned primary cable and make safe splice while replacing pole 120 with a larger pole due to the height change of pole number 120-50 being installed. Alrighty.
Make the motion to accept the petition for the pole installation on Williamsville and Cruise Road.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, vote. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. So we've got one more.
okay, the last one is Mount Jeff. And looking in the attendees, nothing in the chat, no one to speak to it. So unless the board has any questions, a motion can be made.
So this is Mount Jefferson Road. National Grid to install one JO pole on Mount Jefferson Road, beginning at a point approximately 370 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Malone Road and Mount Jefferson Road, and continuing approximately 18 feet in the west direction. Installing P21-3 in public way for temp service, then residential service.
Okay, motion to accept the petition for the pole installation on Mount Jefferson Road.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Dan, yes. Roll call. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous again. All right, Mr. Williams, we appreciate your time.
Thank you
Last
for,
thing, Mr. Chairman, is spoke to town council just to make it faster for everyone, to include Mr. Williams. If the board votes to allow you to sign all three, then we don't need to send signatures to everybody.
So moved.
I'll second.
Is there discussion or clarification? Seeing none, we'll roll call vote. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams.
thank you.
Okay, Thanks. The next item, which is 4D in our agenda, is trash hauler complaints, E.L. Harvey and Sons. So on June 12th, I got an email from Gael Moncourt, who lives at 20 Main Street, maybe, right on the corner of Main Street and Maple, which is that little paper road where we all go trick-or-treating. Down that way, and so instead of going into, there's a few paragraphs of the email. Basically, there's two issues. So what happened is, in a nutshell, E.L. Harvey went down as they normally do down the street, and there was a wire that was at an elevation that is under debate, I guess is the best way to put it. And that wire was pulled off, and it was an electric wire, and it caused a pump in Gael's house to short out, burn out, and cause significant financial implications or repercussions due to that. So there's two things. One is there's an issue, an insurance issue, and a issue between Gael and the insurance company slash E.L. Harvey, and that's sort of one thing in its own, which I'll go into in a moment. The second thing is, following that, E.L. Harvey said, you know what, even though the line was fixed and brought to a different elevation, again, I'm not going to go into what's proper and all that sort of thing quite yet, they said we're not going down there anymore. So there are, I don't know, half a dozen or more houses and some elderly who are now forced to roll their stuff all the way out to Main Street, and aren't happy about it. And in the meantime, I had received another email from somebody else down the street who saying exactly that. So unprompted by Gael, as far as I know, because I asked, who also said, and again, it's a reasonable time of year right now, I guess, but in the wintertime, I can't even imagine. So anyway, they basically said, well, can you help? And so we said, I said, we'll put it on agenda, which is what we're doing. This is our next meeting since they contacted us. And, we have limited enforcement, I guess is the best way I'd put it, for things like this. But we have pull, right? So we can call people out for things like this and have them sort of speak to it. So I got Ryan involved a while ago. I actually went down there and met Gael. I took a bunch of pictures, did measurements with a survey rod to see what the current, sort of line was at. And, Ryan, if you could just chime in real quick with the correspondence that you received back in a sort of paraphrased way from E.L. Harvey since then time. You're muted.
Right. So I don't remember receiving anything from them.
Okay. So all right, maybe I did. So they did. They basically said, explained and said that there's some insurance stuff going on. So that was the pump issue. And then the other piece was, but we got to get that figured out to get them back down the road. So their initial response already back was the one it should have been, which is from a PR type person who responded back, who didn't really want to probably get into a situation there. So anyway, we're pursuing that. We're going to pursue that further to be able to make sure that, one, we can get them back down the road that they went for a long time, and many other trash haulers have done for a long time, with, the wires at the proper elevation that's much lower than where the truck is and that sort of thing. So I think that process is ongoing, but we'll follow up. Wasn't sure who was going to be maybe attending the meeting, whether it was going to be Gael or somebody else. The other one's a little trickier because it's really not within our purview to make a decision whether, especially not knowing what the elevation of that line was and who put it up and whose responsibility. So there is some culpability even from National Grid, who paid or is going to settle with Gael for some amount based on where that wire may have been, but it's not enough. So again, I can send everybody some additional information on this, but that's kind of a separate issue. That's not as much influence we have there at this point. But the other side of it, the other part of it, which getting Harvey to go down that street again, I think is in our interest to obviously be able to sort of support these residents here. So that's just, I wanted to bring it on, the agenda for the first time and sort of go from there. And I can update anybody, once Harvey gets back to us again. So if anyone has any questions, feel free.
I would add, Mr. Chairman, the the Board of Health should certainly be involved in this as well as the licensee, making sure. So if the board wants to either reach out to them individually or send a letter to make sure they're aware and tracking the issue so that it is resolved, always a good idea.
Sounds good. And it was, again, the day, so 2 people contacted me, as I said, and then when I was out there, 2 other of the homeowners just happened to sort of show up and be like, the same thing. So it's definitely affecting everybody down there. So we got to do what we can do to be able to do it. So I'll follow up with everybody, you know, in the coming week here to make sure that you all know what path we're going on, and if anyone wants to chime in, you
So
can.
Dan, are they not going down there as of right now, or are they still going to go down there?
When June 29th or 30th, whatever day it was that I went down to visit, they hadn't been. So it was from June 12th. And I don't know if that was the first day. That was the first day I was contacted, was June 12th. So it was probably prior to that. Up until the 29th or 30th, they were not. So I don't know. The email from the E.L. Harvey representative came after that time. I'm not sure if they've sent them back down, but you know, I'll be able to find that out. When I provide an update, I'll make sure I have accurate information there.
This isn't the first or any there's lots of problems with the trash people. Have you guys read any of those blogs or any of the complaints? There's complaints all over the place with the trash haulers in town. It's been going on for like, what, a couple years now, between missed pickups, overcharging. You know, there's a lot of complaints with the trash haulers in town. There's only a couple allowed, and a lot of our residents are having major problems. Are they, at least the people on Maple Street, are they giving a price break because they have to haul their own trash to the street?
Oh, I doubt it.
Of course not.
I doubt it. Yeah. No, I know. And I've personally gone through my own sort of stuff too. And Harvey's relatively new to the area as well, which I feel as though they don't want to start off on the wrong foot. So I think sending them a you know, sternly worded, if everything's in compliance and it's safe to go down there and carrying out the responsibilities that they've, you know, that they should, then we should be sending them that letter. Okay. All right. So more to come on that. I will follow up with everybody. So if no one has anything else they want to add to it, we will carry on. All right. So we're now to item 4F, which is the fiscal year 21 annual appointments, which we vote on. So these are appointments, and then we also have elected and appointment vacancies that we can go over here. Well, I don't know if everyone saw in their packet or wherever, but there's a long list of appointments. So Ryan, I know we've done this a few different ways in the past. Why don't you let us know how you think you want to do this?
Okay, so just the annual appointment process is those whose terms expire. And just to remind residents, I know the board knows this, the appointment process is dictated by charter. So anyone who's elected is elected. Appointed are those folks who work for us or who volunteer for us. So by charter, the Board of Selectmen appoints for employees the police chief and the fire chief, and all the fire employees. The library board of trustees appoints the library staff, and then the town administrator does the rest of the staff with support and guidance from the Board of Selectmen. And then the Board of Selectmen has its advisory boards and commissions that are not elected, that are appointments as dictated by charter for anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So this list that I will pop up here, make sure I got it correct. Are all those employees and volunteers who have been in contact with Bobby and said they would like to continue their appointments, which is what the board has asked for us to do. Those who did not respond will create a vacancy, which we'll bring to you at our next meeting, the full list of vacancies. So these include employees and volunteers appointed by myself and this board. So looking for the board to do their annual appointments dated back to July 1st of 2020 in order to continue this year.
So Ryan, can we handle this with one motion for all of the appointments?
Yes, if you do it as printed, retroactive to July 1st, it will cover everybody.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the list of appointments as presented, retroactive to July 1st.
I'll second.
Discussion. So I have a question, Bobby. Switch on mute.
Is,
Hi. Hey, so the town center committee, so there were a couple, as you know, you've been going back and forth with me and them recently. That was Brian Kegel and Nir Cohen. So is the reason they're not on here is because they hadn't been active or been current?
they should be on there, they're not.
I didn't see them. Brian, did you see them on there?
I didn't know. So are they at the end of their appointment cycle, or are they annual?
They're,
Bobby?
They were at the end. They were expiring. Well, yeah, but then when I went over it with Lori, she had said that they hadn't like been sworn in since like 2016 or something. So maybe they weren't even on the list. Maybe it was just, it jumped out at her because they
Okay.
hadn't been sworn in. So
One
they
of
will
them-
definitely be on the list. One was 2018 and NER was 2016.
right. So I think that they forgot, for lack of a better way to put it. So maybe that's why they're not on this list, but they have to go on maybe a future appointment. I just don't want to forget about them and have them miss a shot. I know we're not going to do that, but still, I just want to make sure it's done correctly. And this might be the correct way to do it, which is everyone who's current, who's expiring, who's going to get reappointed. If not, then we could potentially talk about adding them right now and sort of reappointing them on.
That's certainly doable. So anybody that we missed would be brought to the next meeting, or that contacted us, or as we're going to talk about next, if you want to advertise these vacancies, we want to try and fill all these remaining spots with all of those one-offs at our next meeting, or we can add them now if we know for sure that they want to be appointed and you want to appoint them.
So I'd recommend an amendment because Bobby and I both received affirmations from them that they want to continue on serving in the town center committee. So I would recommend an amendment or to consider an amendment, Jeff, to your motion there to add Nir Cohen and Brian Kegel to the town center committee.
That's if they were expiring. They might not have even been expiring technically, but because they hadn't been sworn in, it looked like to Lori like they hadn't been, just because they hadn't been sworn in. So their
Won't
term
hurt.
might not be expiring, but we will definitely look at it and make sure that
Won't
they're on
hurt
there.
to double appoint them, so we're okay.
Okay.
So are we amending or not amending?
We
this?
are. If you'll go along with it with your motion, yeah, we are.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Amend to add those two.
Yeah, and Pat, do you your second
Yes.
amended?
Yes.
Okay, Pat agreed to that. Any further discussion? Okay, I don't see any. Ryan, anything else you want to add as your mind's working here?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll go to a vote. So Dan, roll call. Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Petey?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. It's unanimous. So Ryan, you alluded to the next.
Yeah, so all the vacancies are important, and we're going to roll up, now that we know who's been appointed, we'll roll up everyone that's missing by charter and by creation of this board for your next meeting to advertise. But two in particular are pressing, in our opinion, the staff's opinion. So one is the planning board vacancy, which you'll see later in the agenda. We have a resignation and an open position for the elected planning board position. And then also the vacancy created by Katie becoming a board of selectmen to the Economic Development Committee, which is doing good work, and we'd like to keep them going. So I'd like the board to vote to advertise those positions, to fill them within a certain deadline, and then we'll bring the rest of the vacancies to the board at the next meeting.
Okay, so I mean, so you're talking about a vote for a timeline here. So I mean, is 60 days? Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, or even 30 would work.
It's summertime, I think that might be a little quick. I know it's COVID summer, so this isn't normal summer, but I still think I think a little bit longer might be helpful, or maybe August 31st or something.
Brian, what effect does it have with the planning board missing a member?
you know, like this board, it just causes quorum problems and their ability to vote. So I wouldn't push it out too long, but I do agree that it is summer, and I do know that they would like to get another member as quickly as possible because they also have a lot to do.
I mean, August 31st is kind of splitting the difference. It's a month and a half. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that, but
I'll go with that. As opposed to longer, I'll go with the 31st of August. Sounds good.
all right. Well, if there's no other, we can talk about it, discussion. If somebody wants to make a motion on that, please do.
Sorry, what's the motion again? You want us to advertise for the vacancies within the elected and appointed positions, is that correct?
Specifically for the planning board vacancy and the economic development committee vacancy.
Okay. I move to advertise vacancies for the vacancy on the planning board as well as the economic development committee with a date of August 31st as being the deadline.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? Nope, see none. Vote, roll call. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous. Sounds good. So Ryan, you'll take care of putting whatever to get the word out?
And the rest of the vacancies will come at the July 27th meeting.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we've got item 4G, which is Chapter 61B, first right of refusal for sale of land. So for anyone who doesn't know or is new, you know, oftentimes the town has the, if somebody's going to sell a piece of property or a house or whatever else, because of whatever happened in the past or situations in the past, there may be a situation where the town had been put in the position to sort of have some leverage on the property, for lack of a better way to say it, and therefore when it's going to get sold, the town has the right of first refusal. So basically before it can go out to be sort of sold normally or conventionally, that the town has the right to sort of evaluate whether or not we want to negotiate with the purchase of that. So I know Ryan sent some information out on it before, but Ryan, you want to just give us a quick summary of the two?
Sure. So these two are 61B tax exemptions that, as you said, if they sell their home, the town has the first right to refuse to buy it at the value that they're selling it for. So that's up for the board's consideration. The first one to consider is 5 Templeton Road, which is the Elowitz family. They have submitted a complete application according to the Board of Assessors for your consideration. So the two things you can do are waive your right of refusal and allow them to sell this home as they have currently asked, or offer the same amount for purchasing the property. And the recommendation from the staff on both of these is that these should be waived and not retained because they don't have as much value to us as they would to go back into tax circulation.
Specifically, if it's got the possibility for building a house and creating more of a tax base for us. So that's really the sort of impetus for sort of a standard way of business for this sort of thing.
Yeah, and not to be too over simplistic, but we don't have the money currently to afford.
Oh, don't tell them that. No, we got.
That's my recommendation.
When you're asking us to waive the first right of refusal on both of these, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so 5 Templeton Road is the Elowitz application, and then the second one for your consideration is the Curtis application for 52 Flag Road.
I'll make a motion then that we, as Board of Selectmen, first waive the first right of refusal for properties on 5 New Templeton Road, and 52 Flag Road.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we're discussion. Ryan, okay if we do these both at once like this?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Sounds good. Unanimous. All right.
Krista's here.
And Dan, Chris joined us.
Krista's
So.
here.
Okay. We'll get him on the next one. Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Okay, so we're on item 4H, which is Town Council Fiscal Year 21 contract. Ryan, you deal with this 90% of the time, which is a big percentage more than all of us. So, you know, your relationship with them, your view on the level of service they give you, responsiveness, price, all that sort of stuff. You know, you gave us a little bit before on it, but can you reiterate that?
Yes, so KP Law is our town council. In my opinion, and my recommendation is they are very responsive. I normally get an email back within hours if I request it, text, calls, anything that the board needs or the town needs in order to conduct its business. So I'm very happy with their performance. They do a good job explaining things at town meeting and negotiating our contracts and doing all the things that a good town council does. The last year they offered us a contract with no rate increase, which was helpful given our financial constraints. This year they're asking for a $10 an hour increase, which is not uncommon. It is 5% increase, which in my opinion makes sense over 2 years, basically be a 2.5 increase per year. So if the board chooses to retain KP Law as our town council at that rate, and we will send this contract out for your signature.
Oh, so hey, so just to bound it, so we typically we're in the anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 range in expenditures with KP Law the last few years. That broad enough? Wow.
With the board's effort and their emphasis on limiting legal costs and trying to do as much as we can in-house, we have been budgeting for 40,000, but coming in around 30 to 35,000.
Okay, so the 5% is, you know, $1,500 to $2,000, which is not nothing, but you know, I know that we had a flat rate at least last year, so I don't have an issue. I think they've done very well the last couple of years specifically, and that's all we're doing. We're not making a marriage here. We've got a short-term relationship that we can continue to consider each couple of years.
Yep, 1 year at a time.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with KP Law.
Okay, motion's made by Matt. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, Jeff seconds. Is there any discussion? Don't see any, so we'll vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Sounds good. All right, so moving on, we've got the 4I, which is a Ragged Hill Road Affordable Housing RFP. You know, this is Ryan will give you a little bit more on this in a second, but this has been a process that we began many months ago with the planning board's help to be able to get to a point where we have some use of the land that's been sort of hanging out there for a while. We moved one lot, as you guys know, and we've got a few more to go. But this is the other sort of track that we took for one of these properties. So Ryan, want to let them know what we got on this?
Yeah, so originally the town owned 5 pieces of land concurrently on Ragged Hill, so-called lots 1 through 5. Lot 1 was traded for a piece of land on Gardner Road, and that process was just completed. We just filed with the Registry of Deeds, so that is done. The board voted to offer one of these up for affordable housing, which is the one we're discussing tonight. That's lot 2. And then to sell lots 3, 4, and 5, which one of them is already complete and 2 of them are still pending. If the board wants, we can certainly get that RFP out again anytime. So the current lot that's under consideration is was sent out appropriately by procurement law through an RFP, vetted by our town council in order to solicit affordable housing options and applications. So the point of this piece of land was to see what we could get folks to do in terms of adding to our affordable housing stock. So we did only receive 1 bid, and that was from Habitat for Humanity, who has been working with the planning board and who had approached the town previously to see if there was any opportunities, which is good. They've been very responsive and have a very good reputation, this North Central Massachusetts Habitat for Humanity. So the highlights of this, and can get into as much detail as the board wants, but they are offering to purchase for $1 this lot and turn it into a single family home, affordable housing. Hold on one second, I'm getting a high five. Okay, wow, a single 1-family lot. It will look to be a ranch style house, and this application does include this picture here. And what's important to note is this will always be affordable housing. It'll have a restriction on it. So the family that Habitat has in mind will not only assist with the building of the house, but they will also be able to receive a mortgage that they will pay back over time to Habitat for Humanity and live in the community. And then if they were to sell the house, which is a common question, it would retain the same restriction in overall values. This isn't a type of situation where someone can make money. It's a way for someone to come into the community and build their family.
So there's 2, just real quick. So there's 2, 2 reasons why we want to support this, right? So the first is, there is a tax base that we will receive, perpetually from it being a house and somebody living there and paying their bills and all that, but also because we have, certain guidelines and requirements for affordable housing for us to have as a town.
Yeah, so this will not solve our affordable housing stock problem, but it does demonstrate to the state and to others that we are trying in creative ways to increase our affordable housing stock. And this isn't the only thing we have planned, but this is definitely the thing that we can do now. And the planning board is in very strong support of this application. So they are also have some CPA money that's been set aside for affordable housing that they've committed to this project. And as you can see, this is the money that Habitat would come up with in order to build this home. And as our chairman alluded to, once the home is built, then it goes from a piece of land we own that's not earning any money to a money that is now back on the tax rolls. So it helps us in that way as well. And last and importantly, the schedule. So if this RFP bid is accepted by the board tonight, then they anticipate a fundraising that will be complete in the spring of 2021, with construction to be complete and ready for occupancy in the summer of 2022, which is a longer timeline than normal, but it is a volunteer house build, and I do believe would be good for the community.
Okay, so anyone have any questions on this? Or if not, we can take some sort of action if we so choose.
So the actions here would be, if this is agreeable to the board, they can vote on it tonight. They can certainly take more time to discuss and digest it, or you can reject all these bids and go back out to bid, or do something else that you believe is in the best interest of the town.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the bid for the Ragged Hill Road affordable housing.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? I don't see any. So we'll go to a vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Sounds good. So planning board should be happy, and this is just something we started long ago, and hopefully it carries on. But it'd be great to see if somebody can build something over there.
That's great. And I alluded to it. Does the board want me to work with town council to re-advertise the other remaining Ragged Hill lots, or is this something we want to wait on? Or bring up at a future?
I don't see any harm in putting them back out there again, you know, just to see if anything's gonna happen.
I don't know, I guess go ahead.
I suggest,
Sorry, Chris, what'd you say?
I agree with that. I think we should put them back out to bid.
Yeah, I guess the only, not even argument, but just because we're discussing it, the discussion point would be, you know, is it better to do it, you know, now without any activity, or, you know, do we, when the one builder is going to be starting up, you know, work, is it better to have some construction going? Is that better, or is it worse? Or maybe that same builder wants to buy, you know, a higher price now next time if things are going. I'm just bringing stuff up for discussion, but you know, I certainly don't have any objection to what you guys are saying there. So I don't know, Pat, what do you think?
I would almost maybe wait and see. I don't know, what's the plan of the first builder? Does he have any timeline? Obviously, we probably don't know, but I think we might get more action if there's a house there.
Or at least some activity. You guys okay if we just maybe, I mean, anybody can make a motion anytime, of course, but if we, you know, want to punt on this another meeting or two and sort of readdress just to see if, you know, anything moves forward. Anybody okay with that? Or
If it's the feeling of the rest of the board, I'll rescind the motion that I made.
Well, is the original person that bid waiting to build until those other two come up because he wants to do all three at the same time, so it'll be cheaper to have all of his equipment there and all of his party there at once?
well, he bid on the other ones too.
I know.
And we didn't, yeah, right. And we didn't award them. So I guess that's what I was saying is the thought process is, you know, if we put it back out now, maybe that builder or others try again at that number or lower or higher. I don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot.
Well,
Who knows?
By not putting them out, they're sitting there doing nothing for us. We're not getting any tax money from them. We can't even get a bid because they're not back out there. I would put them back out there and see if the ones that did bid come in at a little bit higher because we rejected them the first time around. And maybe they'll realize that the town would like a little bit more money and they throw a little bit more out so that way we can get rid of these properties.
No, and I hear you too. I mean, that's logical. I guess at some point you don't want to do it too many times, right? So if we do this and then we get lower numbers and we're like, let's throw it out again, then we get to a point where it's like, okay, you know, other people, the several who are going to even bid on it, just say, screw it, we're not going to try again. You know, so I guess that's the other argument to the side is because we just did it, do we want to do it so quickly again? So, you know, I don't know. It's that's why we're debating it.
I still say my thought process is throw it back out. It's doing us no good sitting there. It's been sitting there for years and years and years. So I walk by it all the time. It's empty.
Yep.
It's virtually, there's no cost to put it back out, right? Didn't we talk about that already?
So at this point, the cost would be minimal, just review by council, but they've already put together the package. So you know, it's not going to be much more than an hour's worth of work. So for all intents and purposes, compared to the potential revenue, no.
Okay, so as we debated here, you know, I guess if anyone wants to take action, looks like Jeff sort of rescinded where he was currently at, but if anyone wants to, you know, make a motion.
I said I would do that if that was the feeling of the board, but right now the motion is still there, so.
Okay. And was that second? Pat, did you? I don't believe
getting
it.
the impression that Chris and Katie both wanted to go out.
I think so too. It's
Put out now.
really hard to
Am
understand.
I right on that?
You are, I think, but it's really hard to understand you again, Jeff. So it's tough to make sure we know what you're saying. But I believe you're right. I know you're right because that's what they were. So if that motion's still out there, and I
I'll
guess
second. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so there's a second. So Chris, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Anyone want to bring up anything else on this? No? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll go to a roll call vote. Dan, that'd be no. Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes.
Pat?
No.
And Chris?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. So we will put that back out to bid, 3-2. Ryan, if you could, I guess, get it going in the next couple weeks.
Yep, it'll come up on your next agenda.
Sounds good. Okay, so moving on, we're at old business. So this is typically when we, if anyone has anything they want to bring up from previous meetings or anything else, I don't have anything. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up at this point? I don't see any, so we'll move on further. And you're up, Ryan, at item 6, which is the town administrator report.
Okay, so I appreciate the board getting a lot done tonight. This has been very productive. The TA report has mostly been covered, so I will just move through quickly. We did the updates for COVID-19. The department updates focused mostly on the opening or reopening from COVID-19. Also, just making sure that the board understands that we will be continuing our what we're calling enhanced police coverage, which is making sure there's 2 officers on for the high volume times or high expected volume times, and that this extra coverage will be covered by CARES Act funds. Additionally, the fire department is looking to add overnight coverage or enticements for overnight coverage, which should allow us to make sure that the health of our residents is protected, and also our employees. So both of these have been cleared through the CARES Act in the Department of Revenue. So I just want to inform the board if there's anything you want me to discuss further or to go over with that.
Have we had any issues? I mean, fire department wise, just the way you worded that, has there been a reason? I'm not against it. I'm just wondering.
So we are hesitant to do additional fire coverage. It's really ambulance coverage that we're talking about here for those overnight hours because of the cost. It's a little expensive. It's not. It's very expensive to add personnel in a town budget the size of ours. But we always thought that we should, and the reason being is if you have health-related emergencies or it takes longer because of COVID-19 related expenses, then you would have wanted that additional coverage, like insurance. So the reason why we held back is because our budget couldn't support it, and that's a balance that we do all the time with our public safety. Whereas we have the CARES Act money, and they are encouraging us to use it for this type of thing. I think it provides us an opportunity to A, make sure that we're covered, and B, understand the value of that overnight coverage as well. So there's always an ancillary benefit. That is one of them. So the Chief Hayes is requesting this and he said that he wouldn't request it because he knows that the budget strain would be there. But since we have the CARES Act and he does think we need it, he believes it's a good fit.
That's good. Thank you.
Hey, Ryan, if the CARES Act goes away, can we eliminate the overnight shift?
So and that's a great question. The thinking there is the CARES Act would remain as long as we need it. So if the CARES Act went away, we would also take away this additional coverage unless the board, when the finance committee wanted to make the additional investment in those police cares. So right now the CARES Act covers us until December 31st. So this would be 6 more months or 5.5 now.
Okay. Anyone have any further questions?
Okay, so moving on. And then we talked about the Viewpoint Cloud, which I think is going to be a big win for the town, especially as people get used to it. And I can't emphasize enough that tracking is our #1 complaint from residents. So I can log in immediately and answer people's questions. Hey, you didn't turn in this, or hey, this is sitting here, or even prompt staff to move. It takes away a lot of the guessing game. So it's going to be good for the town. Financial management, we went over in detail. Except for that we have applied and received approval to roll over our remaining free cash, which is mostly from us not funding our capital plan into this year, fiscal 21, up until we set a new tax rate, so that if we do have some budget clarity and we do want to bring back some of the capital or other expenditures, we can at any time and still use that free cash. So we made sure that that flexibility was there for you. And then infrastructure updates. These are always good to share. The Evergreen Road Bridge is about an 18-month time frame on that detour. That is not a change in expectation, but just want to make sure that we conveyed that to residents. We're trying to send that information out. This is a very necessary upgrade paid for from external sources. It is causing that detour, and that will exist for quite some time, but the finished product will be worth it. The Route 62 culverts. So this is also state funded. This is, as people are driving to Barry, they see that cone and that dip in the road that continually is degrading. We thought this would fail before they finally started construction, and luckily we were wrong. So the delay in this project this summer has been an environmental concern over a nesting bird. But Travis did attend the pre-construction meeting, and we expect this to begin August 17th. So Route 62 will be detoured for 2 construction seasons starting August 17th, which will again be an inconvenience for residents, but the end product is worth it. And then Route 68 paving, this is going well on the north side of town. As people can tell, definitely a worthy investment by residents to invest in this engineering and design, as we now have almost full reconstruction of our major thoroughfare from Rutland to Gardner. Chapter 90, this is again an important note for folks, the Flag Road paving project, which will be expanded a little bit because it came in under bid, meaning we'll be able to do a little bit more paving in that area, is going to start next week with the big impact coming. I'm starting this week, I'm sorry, it starts tomorrow. The big impact tomorrow, which we sent letters out to residents, will be that we have to close down the road for one day because it's so narrow. So we did our best to try and inform residents that this is coming, to include a reverse 911 call in the area. So they can expect delays, but immediately after that, the road will be opened. And if it wasn't the worst road in town, it was definitely one that needed major repairs, and we'll be able to provide that relief to that area and the residents. Should be complete in the next couple weeks. And lastly, our computer upgrades have been ordered and are finalized. So this was the last piece of the Windows end of life project that the board's been bearing with us and working on. So we should be good for the next half decade or so with our equipment, pending any major changes. Lastly, I just want to recognize Travis. So I talk about the DPW a lot, and I know it's implied that their manager certainly deserves credit, but Travis, especially recently, to say he worries incessantly about our infrastructure is an understatement. He provides tremendous amount of oversight to these projects. The same meticulous nature he provides to all the things he brings to the contractors and those doing work in our community. He sits there, he watches, and he makes sure that the community is protected, as we saw last year with our Chapter 90 when it had to be redone. So he's been following the Route 68 work. He's been following up on Route 62, and he's been all over the Flag Road project and Evergreen Road project. So I just wanted to give him recognition. That allows us to be sure that when we spend the limited dollars we have, and we're able to fix some areas, that we're doing it impactfully. So just wanted to thank Travis for that effort and for his focus.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Okay, moving on. Item 7, policies to review. We do not have any, correct?
Too much other stuff to do tonight. You guys dominated it.
And so item 8, you alluded to this before as well, but we have a couple of resignations, or single person resignations, but a couple of different places from. So that's Craig Boysonow from the Planning Board and Craig Boysonow from the as a call firefighter. I didn't see anything in our packet earlier. I don't know if you had anything late.
So we received a notification from Craig on both of these positions, just asking for a resignation for personal reasons. So I reached out to make sure that he's one of our longest serving DPW workers, didn't get any more of an update for that and respected it, just assuming that he knows best. So unfortunately, he resigned from those two positions. He served on the planning board for a full term and was working towards his fire academy work with call firefighters. So definitely appreciate that wide breadth of service he's had in our community while serving full time in the DPW. Definitely cares about the town.
Okay. So somebody want to make a motion to accept this resignation, with regret?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to accept Craig's resignation from both the fire department and the planning board.
Second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Nope. So we'll vote. Dan, roll call, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Edie?
Yes.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, it is unanimous. All right, moving on. Next item, we don't have any wage authorizations. So we'll move on to item 10, which is minutes to approve. So we have a couple of minutes, right? I did see one earlier in the packet, the May 26th. Are those both in there?
I have June 15th. Let me make sure.
They should be.
Okay. And if you got those open, Ryan or Bobby, can you just let us know who was not in attendance? I believe maybe May 26th. Chris may not have been there.
So I have the June 15th. That's the only one I'm seeing.
Okay.
And I put them up on the screen for you.
Do you want a motion on the June 15th one?
Yep.
I move to accept the minutes of the June 15th
Nope, sorry.
Board
Did
of
it again.
Selectmen meeting.
Second it.
Okay, there's a second. Any discussion? All righty. So we'll do a vote. Roll call, Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Pat?
Abstain.
James? Chris?
Yes.
Yes. And Katie?
Abstain.
Abstains as well. Okay. Did we locate the May 26th as well?
I think
I have
there are only
Chris wasn't here.
4 of us there.
Yeah.
Chris was not there for the May 26th one.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 26th.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Let's see anyway. So we'll roll call vote. Dan, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Chris?
Abstain.
Abstain. And Katie?
Abstain.
Abstain. So 3 yes, 2 abstain. Okay, thank you. So those are our minutes. We are at committee updates. I have no updates on town center committee or building committee stuff, so we can move through that unless anyone has any questions. Actually, I do. Sorry, one quick one is that Gael Moncourt, who brought the E.L. Harvey thing to us earlier, which I didn't actually see tonight. Now that I think of that, but he had requested an appointment to the town center committee because there is an open position. So we can probably just put that on for our next agenda, unless Ryan, you want to say anything on that right now, or but that was just one thing I thought of there.
So we wanted to bring the full slate to you at the next meeting in 2 weeks to
Okay.
advertise. Anyone that is sending in applications, we are gathering those up for you, but we wanted to make sure that folks had equal chance to apply. Not that, people are beating down our doors to serve on the committees, but we wanted to make sure that we advertise them the correct way and open them up for folks.
Understood. Okay. So item 12 is matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I don't have any. At this point, does anyone else have any they want to bring up? Nope. And then public press question and answer. Has anybody joined us, Ryan, or sent you any messages in any form?
Nothing in the chat and no one left in the attendees.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, move to adjourn and seconded by Pat at right around 8 o'clock, so it's good. So we will vote. Roll call, Dan, yes. Katie,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.